Hello, and welcome to the Ball and All podcast, another episode of the Ball and All podcast. This week, we're covering the WNBA playoffs. The NBA season is about to start. The training camp has started this week, so teams are getting interviewed, and I'll probably be doing a recap of that on Friday. Along with a recap of the WNBA. So it'll be two separate videos, so watch out for that. This is just for the WNBA. This weekend on Sunday, we saw my name is Mpho Also. Please do follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Mpho Also and subscribe to the Ball and All YouTube channel. You can send through your comments as well for that. This weekend, we saw the second round of the playoffs in the WNBA. Really, really great games. Unfortunately, the two highest seeds were the ones who were knocked out. Was Upset Valley on Sunday, and we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about the matchups coming up. But firstly, I just want to talk about some of the news that came through over the weekend. It was the start of the WNBA Awards. The WNBA is releasing awards regularly, frequently, and not all in a clump. So they announced the Defensive Player of the Year last week, Sunday at 9 a.m., which is wild because Sunday at 9 a.m. doesn't make sense. And you've got obviously Sylvia Fowles, Defensive Player of the Year. Sylvia Fowles was number 2 in blocks with 1.8 blocks per game, number 2 in steals with 1.8 steals per game, and she was number 3 in defensive rebounds at 8.6. She was voted by 37 of the 41 media personnel that are allowed to vote for it. I don't have a problem with that. I think she really does deserve it. This is a 4th accolade. She's been very strong for the Minnesota Lynx. Really good foundation for their defense. Brittany Griner could feel a little bit hard done by there. She's had a great defensive season. Jasmine Thomas is one of the best guards in the WNBA defensively. Would also feel hard done by, and that's where my next thing comes in: the all defense first team and all defense second team. If you look at the first team, as Brittany Sykes from the LA Sparks, Brianna January, Connecticut Sun, Jonquel Jones of the Connecticut Sun, Brianna Turner of Phoenix, Sylvia Fowles of Minnesota. Then you have Jasmine Thomas as an all-defense second team, Ariel Atkins of Washington, Brianna Stewart, Brianna Jones, and Brittany Griner. One of the things that you could look at this list is the second best defense in the team in the league is not accounted for, and that is the Las Vegas Aces. I understand maybe it's hard picking Liz Cambage outside of Sylvia Fowles and Brittany Griner because I think she was really good defensively. But the Aces team defense was being led ably well by Jackie Young. She had the highest on-off plus-minus defensively of anybody in the league for the Aces. Whenever she was off the court, the Aces were 24 points worse defensively than with her on, and I thought she would make it in the space of Ariel Atkins. Brittany Sykes has the best the best defensive rating per 100 possessions, so that was really hard to select. I just find it very funny that that Connecticut have 4 of their starting 5 on defense. Yes, they've been great, but essentially team defense kind of helps, and they've been the best defense in the league, but you can't necessarily have 4. There were some really good candidates. Jonquel Jones does deserve to be there. I think Jasmine Thomas deserves to be there over Brianna January. Brianna Jones, I think you would say maybe it should be taken out for somebody else, but this is what it was, and this is what was selected, so congratulations to all of them. I look at defensive win shares. There are a couple of other names that would pop in, but this is what they voted. So congratulations to them. Let's look at the first game of the second round. That was the Seattle Storm Phoenix Mercury overtime classic this weekend, and that was fun because Diana Taurasi, who didn't play in the first round game played in this one. Everyone was wondering whether this was going to be either Diana Taurasi's last game or Sue Bird's last game in the WNBA. Sadly, obviously, Seattle lost, and everyone was wondering if Sue Bird is going to continue. There were chants in the stadium of one more year. Definitely would like to see one more year of Sue Bird. The thing about that game was that Brittany Griner really did come to the fore in that game. She is the leading point scorer of Phoenix Mercury. She didn't score a lot of points in the first game against it was against Dallas, if I'm not mistaken. Dallas doubled Brittany Griner a lot, and they could not necessarily. It was actually New York, and they could not get her out. They could not give her any chance. She got 16 points in that game. This game, she got 23 points and 16 rebounds. What necessarily happened was it was an ebb and flow game. The Seattle Storm started slowly, largely because they've been rested for a week. Phoenix Mercury a little bit hot because they played on Wednesday night. That continues. They went on a 12-point lead. Seattle came back with 15-point gap to bring it down to 3, 15-0 run to close it down to 3. And then in the second half, they were just exchanging blows, which is beautiful to see. Sophie Cunningham, of the hero of the night before, couldn't do anything against the Storm defense, and that was one of the things. Skylar Diggins-Smith was driving in the paint, scoring points. She came out with 20 points. Diana Taurasi with 14 points. But if you look at the Seattle Storm, they really did struggle. Jill Lloyd, who 10 days before this game, scored 37 on the same Phoenix Mercury team. She could only score 15 points. Katie Lee Samuelson scored 18 points, and Sue Bird scored 16. It wasn't the best of games, but they managed to get Seattle to overtime, and that was the most important thing. I think here that was something that was needed. Kia Nurse with the clutch points there to get them into overtime. In overtime, it just went pear-shaped. Seattle went 3 for 12, as well as the Seattle in overtime went 3 for 12 from the field. Diana Taurasi scored 6 points in overtime, which kind of set the Phoenix Mercury over by the 5 points. And now the Phoenix Mercury go have a date against the Las Vegas Aces in the start of the playoffs, which starts on Tuesday night, which is tonight as you wake up in America. And for South Africans, will be early Wednesday morning. So that was the first game. Really, really good one. Hard luck for Seattle Storm without Brianna Stewie. They couldn't do anything. Brianna Stewart is like their metronome, and it was tough to ask Jill Lloyd to step up and do a lot of work and carry this team from a scoring perspective in the absence of Brianna Stewart. But they'll be better. They'll be back. They'll still be contenders next season. They just need to go back to the drawing board and work on a few things in the off season. Next game was the Minnesota Lynx losing to the Chicago Sky, another top seed losing to a bottom seed, largely because of freshness. And you kind of feel as though the teams who got the first round bye really struggled to get out the gates. This one was pretty tough for the Minnesota Lynx. They just could not catch up to the Chicago Sky. Courtney Vandersloot was just scoring at will. She did an incredible job with 19 points. And Kalia Copper, 16 points, 10 rebounds. Azura Stevens, who normally isn't the biggest of scorers, came out with 15 points as the starting center. Diamond DeShields, 14 points. And Ali Quigley with 11 points. That kind of shows you an array. If a team has 5 scorers of more than 10 points, most likely they are going to win this game. And that's what happened. They had the difference in this game was the defense. The Chicago defense was much better. They had 11 steals that led to 22-6 fast break points, 22 for Chicago, 6 to Minnesota, 37-29 rebounds, 2 in the favor of Chicago, when you would have thought Minnesota would have had a better front court. With Sylvia Fowles and Nafisa Collier handling that area, but they couldn't. They couldn't do much. And the Sky ended up with 19 of 20 free throws. They only missed 1 free throw in the game compared to Minnesota Lynx only getting 10, which kind of shows you the team. Chicago was driving. Chicago was dominant in the paint, something that they weren't normally good at in the back end of the season, but Candace Parker, Azura Stevens, and also Stephanie Dolson doing a really good job there. So the Lynx are 9, and so they move through. For the Lynx, Ariel Powers got 24 points for them, so that's something good that they can work off of. Kayla McBride, 19 points, and Sylvia Fowles got 17 points, but she didn't score any points in the fourth quarter. I do think the season kind of caught up with the Minnesota Lynx. Kayla McBride played in Turkey, only came in like 3 weeks into the season, and they're going to need to try and get a lot more from Nafisa Collier to try and challenge. And I think, yes, maybe you would have said third round is where they should have gone out, but they met a team that was red hot, a team that had played a couple of days before. They kind of understood, and they were playing with house money, and this is what ended up happening. And so, looking at our playoff picture, before we talk about the next group of fixtures, this is what's happened. Now you've got the Connecticut Sun playing the Chicago Sky. You've also got the Las Vegas Aces playing the Phoenix Mercury in a best of 5 semifinals, third round of the playoffs. You'll be the home team, the higher seeds will play first at home, games 1 and 2. Then games 3 will be played away from home, and then 4 will be played away from home if it's needed. So it'll be played at the lower seed, and then game 5 will be back at the higher seeds home, and then obviously the winners go through to the WNBA finals. So that's the playoff picture. Now let's have a look at the matchups and what we're going to see starting from tonight. So the first one is the Connecticut Sun against Chicago Sky. 2 very good defenses. I think the teams that are left are very good defenses in the WNBA, but Connecticut Sun, obviously they've had that 14-0 run to close out the season, so that's something that they want to build on. They haven't played in over 10 days, so that's going to be something that's going to be watching. They're going to be a little bit rusty to get off the mark. The Chicago Sky, having played on Sunday, will probably be a lot more fresher, and I wouldn't be surprised if they took game 1. What Chicago needs is to split game 1. Not split the first 2 games. So win one of the games, go back to Chicago with the advantage, and try win at home and close it out at home. But I think the Connecticut Sun, well drilled. They have a really good team defense, so that travels and that works. So I think that will come through for them tonight. They've got, I think, 4 scorers who average about 10 points per game, so they can share the rock and they can score really well. Jonquel Jones, Dewana Bonner, Brianna Turner, as well as I think it might be Alyssa Thomas, but yeah. So that's something that you need to watch. The question for Chicago is, how do they defend against this offense? How do they defend? Because against in the previous rounds, you could double team Sylvia Fowles, you could double team Nafisa Collier, keep them quiet. Here you can't. If you double team, you're opening up for another scorer who averages 10 points per game. So it's going to be quite interesting to see. The bench of Chicago could be quite important. The 3-point shooting from Chicago could be quite important. That's something that they're going to need to look into and try get that going a lot more quicker. That's the one. Obviously, this is Jonquel Jones' moment, probably the MVP of the season. This is something for her to take her team through. Chicago is obviously the underdog. They're going to try and scrap it. And they've scrapped through these first 2 rounds of the playoffs, being the lowest seed in pretty much all their games and getting through onto the other side. So it's going to be a really good one to watch. I think defensively, both teams will be great, but offensively, how does Chicago score against this defense? That's going to be quite interesting. I think they might have to hang around the 3-point arc a little bit more and not try force things in the paint. I loved how they moved through how they movement against Dallas. That was really good to see. And so that's what you want to see as well against Minnesota Lynx. They moved well, they opened up spaces, they created spaces, and if they can do that, they can beat this Connecticut Sun team. Next game is the Las Vegas Aces. This is the second best defense in the league. They've got Liz Cambage back. They've got Jisoo Park, who can handle Brittany Griner. And I think that's going to be the one matchup to watch. It's Brittany Griner against Liz Cambage, how that works defensively. AJ Wilson coming in to help as the help defender if Skylar Diggins-Smith decides to come driving through the lane. So I think the Aces can win this on defense alone. I think they're that good. But the thing about the Aces, they've got 7 players. Is it 7 or 8? I think it's 8. seven players who averaged 10 points per game in the regular season. That's AJ Wilson, Kelsey Plum, Liz Cambage, Jackie Young, Dearica Hamby, Chelsea Gray, and Raquana Williams. That tells me that the bench of the Aces is also very good. So they're a very well-rounded team. They're a team ready to take on the playoffs, and they're really strong in those areas. Whereas with Phoenix, it's Skylar Diggins-Smith, Diana Taurasi, and Brittany Reiner. Outside of that, you can get Sophie Cunningham coming off the bench. You can get Shea Petty. It's a massive series for Shea Petty because the scoring responsibilities will largely fall on them, because essentially this Aces team, just like Connecticut, can man mark, single coverage, single cover each of the other opposing players, the opposing strong players. And even if they choose to double, the people they're going to leave out are the guys who are scoring less, Shea Petty, and the likes of Sophie Cunningham's, the people coming off the bench. Those people will have to score. They're going to have to be on point to beat this Aces team. Yes, Phoenix has played on Sunday, so they could take game one because of what we saw on the weekend on Sunday. Single elimination, anything can happen. And the team that played during the week is the team that won. So you might get that today. But in a 5-game series, I do think the Aces come through. Really good to see AJ Wilson. It's going to be exciting to see her come through and play. Brianna Turner is going to have a tough time on her. She's a good defender. She made all-defensive team. She's going to have to look after AJ Wilson on the defensive end. Skylar Diggins-Smith needs to drive inside. Diana Taurasi and that ankle, hopefully it's a little bit better and she can give a lot more. If Diana Taurasi is not 100%, I don't think the Phoenix Mercury will win the series. That's something that's going to be quite important. They really do need her. And yeah, so that's essentially what this game is. I do think the Aces and the Sun will meet in the finals, but we will have to wait and see. Last look at our playoff picture. It's shaping up really nicely. We're in the final 5. It starts on Tuesday night, which is tonight, and will carry on up until next week. I'll be giving you recaps. I'll probably give you a recap after game 3 and as we go along the way. But thank you very much. Please do like and subscribe and follow me on Twitter as well as YouTube and Instagram. Thank you very much. My name is Mpho Also. My handle is at Mpho Also on both those platforms. Outside of that, have a great weekend. Enjoy the basketball tonight, and le sale kakagiso.